Hello everyone, another boss guide today. Introduced in 2.4 and later removed because deemed too hard for too little by the players in Korea, Liberated Beshmundir Temple is the place to go if you want a true challenging PvE content. As a matter of fact, it was never taken down in NA, which is why I'm using footage found on YouTube to illustrate my guide. I've put all the videos I used in the description, and I want to thank Rare Bear for the help he gave me understanding Korean. You'll first need to kill Stormwing in Beshmundir Temple hard mode to get a dimensional fragment as a reward of a quest given by Lania or Vergilan depending on your faction. You'll then use the fragment in the artifact located in your Ciclonica entrance camp to be teleported inside the instance. Ciclonica Stormwing, as he's called in Europe, is waiting for you. The fight will feel like the one you had in Beshmundir, except he hits harder and has more HP, sitting at 2.5 million. A lot of tornadoes and all the skills you know, Midnight Wind, Threshing Wind and Dragon's Quake. They behave the same, but here's a quick reminder for those who need. Sharp Twister will deal medium damage and apply a dot. Root Twister will stun you for 4 seconds. Midnight Wind is a frontal AoE, so you should stand behind the boss if you can. Threshing Wind is a 10 meters AoE that stuns and deals medium damage. Dragon's Quake is a 20 meters AoE which deals great damage, stuns and spawns thunderbolts 5 seconds later on 2 spots where party members stood. For a more detailed explanation, go watch my Stormwing guide. The implied consequence is that Winter Circle is also useful here. Ciclonica Stormwing adds a skill called Hurricane Blasts. He takes off and blows a blue wave below him in a 20 meters AoE. If you get hit, you'll take 5k damage and Stormwing gets a shield for the next 30 seconds that ASM can dispel. He will repeat it around every 50 seconds throughout the fight. When he lands after Hurricane Blast, many tornadoes will spawn, of which 4 are of a new kind. One will be a healing tornado. The leader should have a macro to target it and brand it as one. All the DPS should focus it and take it down as soon as possible, as it will heal Stormwing if it finishes casting. 3 will be explosive tornadoes. They will try to get in range of a target to explode or disappear after 15 seconds if they couldn't get close enough. The explosion deals around 3k damage in a big AoE, so the best strategy is to get the tank to taunt them when they spawn and lure them away. If the tank isn't in a situation where he can do this easily, whoever has aggro should get away from the group and either wait for them to disappear or let them come close. They'll start casting the explosion, and you can run away to avoid the damage. The timing to do this is really short, so prefer the first solution if you can. And that's it. It can sound easy, but with everything happening at the same time, one mistake is all it takes for everything to fall apart, and the fight lasts around 10 minutes, so it's a marathon. I'll try to explain the fight a bit more to give you pointers for better chance of success. Generic tips. The first thing I noticed watching Korean videos over and over is how they move. The group will always stick to the border and make Stormwing move when too many tornadoes are close to him on the field. The tank will dictate where he wants to be. The rest of the group has to adjust. If you get split because of tornadoes or because you avoided an AoE, use the few seconds of respite when he casts Threshing Wind or Midnight Wind to regroup in one spot. If someone is stuck on his own, don't let him die alone and try to help. Second advice I found exploring Korean discussions is that a lot of them swap between HP set and magic resistance set. If you have a high MR set, it can help resisting the explosion damage, for example. Third advice is to slow your DPS before reaching 50%. 50% is when Ciclonica Stormwing will begin casting Dragon's Quake. The goal is to have him cast Hurricane Blasts at 51%, deal with the healing and explosive tornadoes, and then burst to have more time without dealing with them again. Having to burst the healing tornado while trying to avoid the thunderbolt can be tricky. Fourth, enable the speech bubbles and the speech sound for this boss. There are audio cues to help you know what's coming. Cleric tips. Number 1. When the explosive tornadoes spawn, since the tank pulls them away from the group, the cleric can stand in the middle of the arena to be able to heal both the group and the tank until everyone stand as one again, but it is the only time you should split from the group on purpose. Once again, this is easy to do the first 50%, but when you add the fact that you have to dodge the tornadoes and the thunderbolts, after every dragon quake, things can get messy real quick. Number 2. Don't use rebirth before the fight begins, but only when it reaches dragon's quake phase. A death at the beginning is not a threat to success. You can get reset quite easily. If you die, make sure you have the macro to skip the resurrection animation. For this, just create a macro where you select yourself and /follow. Number 3. At the beginning of the fight, Stormwing will always do Midnight Wind, then 2 Threshing Winds, then he'll do a range attack called Distant Wind shortly after. It deals between 5k and 7k damage to the tank, so you can precast a big heal when he lands after the second one. He'll cast Hurricane Blast shortly after. This is an opening to burst as much as possible for your ranged DPS, and a good time for your healer to regen his mana and put the party full HP. Number 4. This is more a belief in Korea that when the steps of Stormwing are particularly loud, it's because he's about to choose someone. Use this information to precast a heal because it can deal up to 8k damage. This is mostly an urban legend as I didn't hear the difference, but I thought it was worth mentioning if you have better ears than me. DPS tips. As a DPS, you have to take care of yourself in this fight. The Cleric already has a hard job keeping himself and the tank alive, and you cannot rely on him to stay on your feet. So come here, with enough consumables to regen your HP. Serums, potions, or even life crystals may be the difference to save your try. If someone dies, it is your duty as a DPS to res as the chanter, and the Cleric will be too busy keeping the tank alive. Sorcerer tip. When Stormwing is coming to bite you, you can use your boon of Ironclad to take no damage at all. Use this when you know your Cleric would have a hard time healing you. Tank tips. Sadly, I've never played tank in Aion and wasn't able to see anything useful to help you. I'll sum up what you should do to make your life easier. Don't hesitate to change your tanking spot to make sure existing tornadoes won't hit you, but make sure you stay on the edge of the arena. You're subject to get 8k hit sometimes. If an unforeseen tornado gets on top of you, you could get one shot and you're good for a reset. After Hurricane Blasts, be sure to use your AoE taunts for the 3 explosive tornadoes. Cry of Ridicule and Snickering Roars are used on most of the videos I checked. You should also have a macro to brand the healing tornado as one so your DPS can target ASAP to take it down before the heal. In the macro you see right now, replace PCX with the name of the healing tornado and use it when it spawns. It will automatically target it, brand it as one, and select your previous target. The fight is hard, be ready to do a lot of die and retry. This is mostly a PvE achievement, as the Ciclonica Stormwing weapons are barely better than their normal counterpart. I've used iongear.fun to show you the difference on all weapons. Apparently though, the drop rate is quite high, so it could still be worth if you manage to kill him regularly.